Welcome to the Halo Effect, hospitality stories with Ashley and Michael Donald.
With over 40 years working in the hospitality industry, we've lived some incredible experiences, and as a husband and wife team, we continue to forge our path through business and life that continues to present challenges and opportunities. Through this podcast, we would like to share these experiences and provide some behind-the-scenes insights into the world of hospitality and entrepreneurship.
We hope that this will help anyone who is on a similar journey by sharing how we forged our own path through this incredibly rewarding, yet often challenging industry. Welcome to the Halo Effect, hospitality stories with Ashley and Michael Donald. And today, we got Ashley here with us, co-hosting. Hello. And we're also joined by Harry Fielder, a true specialist in the world of hospitality technology. Harry is the chair of the Hospitality Marketing Association and a familiar face to many who are maybe attend conferences and events. He's also the CEO of Umi Digital, helping drive some of the most innovative hospitality tech in hospitality across the UK. Harry, you're very welcome. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Lovely to be here.
Harry, would you like to maybe give us a little introduction to what you're up to at Umi Digital, some of the incredible highlights that you've had in your career in the last few years, and what your contribution to the industry is, maybe as part of the Hotel Marketing Association as well?
Sure. Well, I'll start with Umi because that's kind of where it all began, really. But Umi actually started out as a hotel company, weirdly enough. So that's why we are focused on hotels, I suppose. But Umi, as in a nutshell, is a full-service marketing agency for hotels, so covering various different elements of marketing support, but also the bespoke developments across web apps, websites, integrations, and some of the more complex side of hospitality technology. So still very much a service business. But back to where it started, as I said, we were the internal marketing department for a hotel company, Umi Hotels. The hotels were sold off, and then we effectively became our own agency. So for a while, it was me and my business partner in a pub, running it from there. And just over the last 12 or so years, we've just grown and started working with some wonderful properties. And I'd say in the more recent years, it's maybe had a little more of a focus around luxury. But even so, there is quite a broad variety of hospitality businesses in there as well. So it's been just exposure to a lot of different types of hotels and hospitality, and also travel to an extent as well. And then my involvement in the Hotel Marketing Association, which started out really as a committee member. And really the goal of the Hotel Marketing Association, it's been going for decades. The life president is Pamela Carvel, who's been on it for a long time and guides everyone really. But the role really is to champion best practice, to celebrate success, and really just put forward hotel marketing as a profession, really. So the awards, the Hotel Marketing Awards, are the kind of pillar of our year, and around that we have webinars, we have in-person events, we have thought leadership pieces put together. We do surveys, we do all sorts of things, all to kind of elevate the skill set among our community of hotel marketers, and also just celebrate all the amazing things that are happening. It's been interesting being part of HOSPA over the last couple of years. It's been amazing to just bounce off all of their expertise, their resources. We've been able to do so many more things because we're plugging into an existing finely tuned machine that is HOSPA. It's very exciting. We've just slightly restructured the chair role, so we've now got people focused on the committee, on the community events, and an executive role. So it's growing. Very big appetite for next year with regard to events and much more.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. And I think, we've done a little bit of work with HOSPA, and as you say, I think it's great to have made that collaboration with them, and their services and thought leadership and events have grown from being quite sort of financial focused and revenue, and now very much broadening it out to marketing. So great to have that specialist industry support for marketing as an expertise and discipline. So that's great. Well, we're very lucky to have you and your insights with us today. So great.
Thank you so much. One thing we'd like to sort of kick off with is talking a bit about technology. And Ashley and I both worked in hospitality for years, and we've seen how technology has kind of moved gradually forward over the last 20 years or so. But certainly I think in the last 5 years, it's kind of moved a lot quicker. Accelerated is the perfect word. And so maybe you can have a little chat about what we've sort of seen change. Obviously we've seen mobile check-ins and AI coming in, but maybe walk through some of the biggest changes that you've seen, and how they've kind of impacted businesses, so the overall businesses, profitability, what that might be, and guest experience, because that is something we certainly like to focus on within our podcast and our business.
Yeah. So I guess the event horizon that I'm really looking at is, I guess, the last 13 or so years where I've really had a bit of a handle on it. But in that time, I think we've seen the whole rise of the modern PMS, as it were. Before that point, Muse was a tiny little thing punching. Trying to claw market share off Opera, which granted Opera still do have a serious foothold, but it's been amazing to see this rise of the connected PMS. And I think the connected PMS, I know in a hotel that is kind of the heart of it, but also from a technology perspective, so many things just bounce off the PMS. If you don't have a connected center point, all of the other hotel tech that you might have across Internet of Things, across distribution, across accounting, across business intelligence, everything doesn't really flow. And I think that's why for so many years, we've actually been quite a long way behind retail, because the connectivity element of that center point of technology has been so poor. Well, it's been poor is maybe a bad word to use. I think inaccessible. It's been
sort of quite siloed, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been quite inaccessible for quite a lot of people, and the connectivity being commoditized and open has just allowed so many different strands of hotel technology to grow and to develop. So what we're seeing is now so many different systems all doing quite specialized elements of the hotel tech stack. And so the tech stack, when I talk tech stack, I mean the combination of all the different systems you use: property management system, booking engine, channel management, revenue management, all of these different systems together. The stack has become significantly more complex, which is a blessing and a curse. A blessing in the sense that you've got so many specialized tools for the job. What a curse, because the complexity of that stack is beyond, I think, the typical skill set within an individual at a given property. Even in groups, and what happens is you have decision maker, operations will make decisions around certain type of technology. The marketing will do CRM, the revenue will do revenue management, and that's fine. But ultimately, the power of all of these come when there is a network effect and everything connects together. But there's very often a lacking. There's no CTO type role that brings it all together. And so in a way, there's amazing systems, but in a way it's kind of become even more challenging to actually use them properly.
Yeah, leverage them to the best of their capabilities. I mean, we certainly found Opera, as you say, has done dominant for very, very long. But I remember new people would come into the business and saying, "Oh, have you used this tool before? And can we get that in?" And then it's okay. We go to Opera and it says, "Okay, we need to build an API, and that's going to cost this amount of money." And then, so you're doing everything bespoke. Whereas now, you said the open APIs makes it. Obviously there's a market, but it is cheaper. It's more accessible. But now there's so much choice. Of different things that do different things. It makes sense to have someone sort of running the show rather than just I've used this tool before, can we get it in?
Yeah, and just understanding where all that data sits, who owns the data, and I think with increased mindfulness around privacy, etc., there is a consideration, as you say, to have a real sort of data specialist in the organisation, which is above and beyond, I suppose, as you say, that traditional hotelier skill set, whether that's across the different disciplines within there. So, it's interesting to see how those, data is kind of really central now to understanding guests, their behaviour, travel patterns, in order for us to make more human connections. But it's becoming a bit more complex. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword in many ways, isn't it?
I wonder, however, it's slightly curveball, but there are so many acquisitions happening now across big hotel tech companies. Now that the market penetration for most systems is very high. Like, most people have a PMS. Pretty much everyone has a booking engine. Pretty much everyone. Most people have most things at this point in the sort of hotel tech industry life cycle, right? And as soon as that happens, the only way that most tech companies can grow is through inorganic growth, right? They have to buy other companies in order to actually meet their growth targets, because they're quite tricky systems to change out for hotels. So organic growth is hard to come by. So you've got this more acquisitions in the last 12 months than there's been. We're just going to be setting record after record of mergers and acquisitions in this space. Now, I think that's going to reduce innovation, but not in a bad way. I think there's going to be increased standardization, a slower pace of innovation, more cooperation between larger entities rather than just this absolute shotgun of lots of startups doing similar things. And so actually, as a service business, that excites me quite a bit, because it means you're going to be inheriting accounts or hotel or tech stacks that I think is going to have slightly less variation and better interoperability between the various systems because of this large this consolidation of the industry. It's going to take a few years, but I think that's exciting.
Is this feeding into the sort of omni-channel communication, and is that going to support sort of from a guest perspective a more simplified all-in-one kind of channel, or is it further complicated? Or
I think at the moment, I think that's the vision for a lot of these M&A activities. The reality is that even smashing two CRM systems, let's say a CRM system wants to grow, they buy another CRM system or they buy a competitor. To put those two together is no easy feat. Similarly, if you're a portfolio company, you want to buy a booking engine, rolling two sets of client bases together, again, it's such a tricky thing to do. So I think a lot of the activities at the moment driven by market share and potential vertical integration across all the different, and you see a lot of the acquisitions being made. I want a PMS, and I want a booking engine, and I want a CRM, and I want this. So they are trying to pull all of the elements of the stack together. Time will tell how successfully they actually do, because aside from market share, which I think, as I said, I think is actually a big driving factor, really. This is why people are overpaying for things. But you've got tech that might be 20 years old, built on stuff that's 2 years old, built on stuff that's, it's just so, what you acquire is so variable. And therefore pulling it all together in this omni-channel seamless approach will take, I think, longer than we anticipate it taking.
So from a guest perspective, one of the biggest changes we've sort of seen is that sort of contactless automation, trying to make things easier for clients. Has it improved the guest experience, do you think?
I think in a lot of ways, yes. I think the ability to have the choice over how you interact with a hotel, because realistically, you very rarely force someone to do something. You very rarely get to the front desk and say, I'm afraid you can't check in because you didn't do it on your mobile. So but some people do prefer to book that way. Similarly, there are still people on the end of the phone. And so what we've done is we haven't necessarily forced people in a certain direction, but we've given them the choice. So yes, I do think that we have made it easier.
Ryanair, I've definitely had that problem though. I've definitely had but let's not mention the words hospitality and Ryanair in the same sentence.
Yeah.
I've definitely forgotten to check in, and they're absolutely no, you can't check in now. You have to pay us more money to do it. But let's stick to
hopefully
hospitality.
On the hotel side, hopefully that hasn't quite reached us yet. So I think in many ways, yes, it has. I think what it has, the flip side to that is, I think, twofold. Firstly, we've chucked a huge number of third-party user interfaces into the mix. So let's say you've got your loyalty running on loyalty.hotel.com, separate UI UX. You've got your booking engine, which is a third-party, hosted environment. You've got your website. You've got your gift, which is another third-party. Everything looks different to an extent. They might have the same colors, might have the same logo, sure, but they are all third-party different entities digitally. And so I think that does create a lot of confusion. So yes, and your check-in, your app is going to then be another one to add to the mix. So the fact that we're being asked to log into our loyalty program, it's sensible to assume that, okay, well, maybe my username and password will get me into the Wi-Fi as well, or get me into my booking engine as well. I think we've added a lot of complexity from a not just from a back-end perspective in terms of the tech stack, but also from a usability perspective. There's so many different systems for that guest to interface with. As a trend, I think we are trying to pull those together because of all of these systems actually having APIs and connectivity. There is a huge appetite now for groups and businesses that really want to bring that all together. You can actually create that as a first-party experience. You don't have to hop people over to all of these third-party destinations. You can build and integrate the functionality into a first-party experience without reinventing the end technology itself. As an example, Muse, as an example, has a booking API. So, for example, you can actually build the booking piece within your website without necessarily building a whole booking engine. So there are things that can be done. The flip side is, my second edge of the double-edged sword is the fact that we're constantly trying to reduce friction in a guest journey. But it's ultimately the points of friction that create the opportunities for interaction with a guest. And if we excel and are perfect at our role as technologists at reducing friction, then we've actually taken out so many opportunities for hospitality. And it was a very interesting conversation I was having with some of the Good Hotel Guide hoteliers at their forum last week, which, the average number of rooms in that average numbers of rooms among the hoteliers in that room was about 11. Okay, so it's on the smaller end. However, if technology went off and just evaporated in many of those businesses, they'd all be completely fine because they've still got it all in a book on the front desk. Most of their reservations come over the phone. They have keys. Some people have actually backed off having card keys and put real keys back in because of the symbolism of the key, and B, it's an opportunity to interact with someone.
Yeah.
And so
there very much the experience of the Goring. With the brass key fobs, and it was amazing. Like sometimes you'd get brass key fobs coming back in the post and things like that. Sometimes people would just drop key fobs into a letterbox and they would just come back.
Oh, brilliant!
Wow. which is great fun. But it was always just a point that people could speak to the concierge, and that was it. Now, I also agree with your point with the friction with key cards. They tend to go wrong, whether it's been created wrong or something wrong with the system, and there's still a point of friction where someone comes back to the desk and says, "Oh, my key's not working," and can you get? And that is an opportunity. It is an opportunity to speak to a guest and make sure that they're enjoying their stay, but it's often missed.
But it goes towards food and beverage as well. You can order from your phone. Okay, great. I can order. There's so many things that are we're trying to reduce the friction on. Check-in, check-out, payments. Again, a lot of it is administrative, and this is where I'm kind of on the fence about it, because you are a very logical aspiration is to is to use technology to ensure that all the experiences, all the interactions that you have with the guest are hospitality focused ones, hospitable and all about the engagement. However, and so it makes sense to try and get the admin out of the way using technology. However, the admin actually creates the opportunity to be hospitable. So it's kind of it's a two-way thing.
It is, and I know when we've looked at stats around creating loyalty, often it's those guests that have perhaps encountered some sort of problem, but the problem has been solved so well and that service recovery has been delivered so well that actually they've often had a better experience because they've encountered a problem that's been solved brilliantly. That's again that opportunity to create that interaction and loyalty than had they just had a really seamless stay and it was fine, but actually not that memorable because they've not had this kind of issue. So yes, I think there's being purposeful with what you can use the technology, as you say, that more administrative back end, but leaving that opportunity in, whether it's from a service perspective or potentially from a commercial and upselling perspective, that you can have a guest in front of you and actually could make an amazing upsell to a suite that will really enhance their stay and also drive incremental revenue as well. So I think trying to have that balance, isn't it? But again, not always easy to find the sweet spot, is it?
Nope.
we would often break down the difference between the sort of value adding experiences and the kind of the experiences that customers would genuinely spend money on versus the experiences that if they go wrong they'll be made upset. So let's say something that you'd pay for the experience of a concierge taking their time and with you and your family and showing you around, but you don't necessarily pay extra for your room to be cleaned. But if something goes wrong with your room and if it's not cleaned, then obviously that's going to be a driver of disappointment and anguish. But it's a pretty key moment. We often hear that data is more valuable than oil. I don't know if you've ever heard that one before.
I have.
But it is something that we're incredibly aware of at the moment, especially if things go wrong and data gets lost in some way or people have access to data that we don't want. But we also know that we're trying to get as much information about our customers and our guests as possible so that we can hyper target marketing and we can personalize experiences. But there's changes going on. Cookieless marketing has been sort of changing things, and now we're sort of really focused on emails as part of the email marketing or just email logins to different portals. What's your take on it, Harry?
So I think that the data is more valuable than oil. I agree, but to most people, oil isn't very useful because they're not oil refiners, and it's just a big sludgy load of mess. And it's the same sort of thing with hotels in the sense that, yes, data is wonderfully valuable. However, most people are so ill-equipped to actually handle it. And we're sitting on immense amounts of data that is completely useless. And that is not a product of negligence. It's not a product of anything. It's just the amount of information we have stored across every element of our business is staggering. But is it actually that useful? And I think at the moment, and it's compounded, and this effect is compounded because of the complexity of that tech stack. If we just had a property management system and everything fed into that, then great, that's perfect. But now we've got live chat that also sits on top, that has its own conversations within it. We've got Google Analytics, which is great for that kind of discovery and all the information about the marketing process. Fantastic silo over there. You've got our Wi-Fi portals and our networking, which can actually tell us how people are moving around the hotel and where are they spending more time near access points in the F&B, or what time they come in late at night. So the Wi-Fi can actually be used as an amazing source. So there are so many pockets and silos of all of this information, and very rarely does it all fit together. And it doesn't fit together because there is no one can agree on what that central point of truth is for a guest profile. Is all the property management systems are saying it should be us. The CRM systems should say it should be us. The CRM systems are saying we're now customer data platforms. I'm on the fence about that as well. Do we then invest in a data lake and start having actually our own completely separate pool of data that feeds into information across our entire business, all into that one data lake, so that maybe one day in the future we have all of our information together and we can ask questions about it. And I find it hard to answer because for your 11-bed hotel with amazing food in the Highlands, is pooling all of that information together ever going to be that useful? Is it? Well, it could be useful. Is it ever going to deliver a significant return on investment? Yeah. Probably not. It would be interesting, and I think there's a big difference between it's going to be interesting and is it actually going to make business changing impacts on our business. And I think that for me, the most important aspect for most people to answer is: do we have an agreed central source of truth for a guest profile? And are all of the digital touch points that a guest has, or digital and physical touch points, physical that we can record, digital that we can also record, are they feeding into that profile? So, for example, is our central source of truth only being populated by reservations that have happened in the PMS, or is it also feeding in people that perhaps generate a lead through LinkedIn ads? Is it also from our newsletter, from our booking engine, of people that have created an account to see some member rates but then don't book? We have to have one global central source of truth, and then everything stems from that. In my opinion, that's the first thing to address, even before we start going, how are we going to use AI in our business? How are we going to use this? How are we going to use this? Because there's so many amazing tools out there, but I think there's more low-hanging fruit that needs to be addressed first. And for me, what is that central source of truth? And do we have a system that is fit for purpose to actually empower the guest journey that we want? Because quite often we have in our mind's eye, we have a guest journey that is personalized. It allows our front desk to welcome people in a personal way based on previous stays and various things. But the reality is there's often quite a lot of gaps in the tech stack that enables us to do that. So data is the new oil, but most people don't have the systems to actually make use of it.
Refine.
And also
to refine
it's to refine it.
Yeah, and it's what they want to do with it, isn't it? It's how is it actually going to add to the guest experience or the employee experience, or make more money or save money or whatever it might be.
It's quite an interesting case with whether choosing to invest in this or not invest in this. The idea of having a data lake, having this pool of information that takes information across all of the different areas of our business. For me, the idea of doing that is so that we can answer questions in the future that we might have. Unfortunately, the way a business case is made for that is by saying what questions we want to answer. Now, it's a bit chicken or egg, because if you don't sort out the structure of your data now, you're going to be in the same position in the future. Whereas we might not know all the questions we want to ask of that data and how we want to use that data right now in order to make a business case, but it is really chicken or egg.
Yeah, you're keeping that potential open, and also it's data that you own from, as you say, multiple sources, and that you can identify guest behaviours. You say from what they're searching, how they're interacting with your communications, right through to if they actually even make a booking. But it just gives you much more of a holistic view of either your guest or your potential guest and their behaviour and how to target them. And I think it is really tempting with, as you say, all of these advancements in technology and new apps to almost get that kind of like magpie, like, oh, this is new, and let's kind of jump on this and almost get a quick win. But actually, as you say, let's kind of take a step back and actually just sort out the basics of this data and how we can then future-proof the use of it. Yeah, really interesting.
Trying to build the right foundations for it, isn't it, now, so that in time it can actually do what we want it to do. Whereas if you don't build the right foundations, you realise it's all going to fall down in a few years' time and you haven't got what you needed to get. And you can't really go back from scratch without knocking everything down again.
But I think it does come back to your original point around that sort of data specialist skill set. And as hoteliers, we work with multiple specialists, consultants, agencies, partners, etc. But even that can still feel a little bit fragmented because everyone's got their own specialism within that. And I think, adding that layer of kind of data specialism across all of those areas, it is quite a challenge, isn't it, for hoteliers to kind of think, okay, as you say, this is going to be something that we need in the future. We need to start investing now when, the pressures, I suppose the more immediate pressures of having dealt with, inflationary pricing and NI hikes, there's those immediate things that they need to solve right now. Sometimes it's harder to look kind of much further down the future, which isn't as clear cut, and that ROI very kind of clear for them to make a decision on.
Well, data is one thing. We have a lot of new technology coming out now as well. We've mentioned ChatGPT a little bit. Obviously, there's other AI options are available, but everything connected together, Internet of Things, they're all been making their way into the hospitality space for a while. And we have a lot of people saying, oh, how do I use ChatGPT? How can I use AI? And as you've sort of mentioned, they're kind of rushing into the how can I use it rather than why do I want to use it. But what trends do you see kind of happening in the next sort of 3 to 5 years, and what should, apart from getting their ducks in a row and working out where they want their data to be held and how to do that, what else do you see really making a big... I've already heard this week that we need to start using Search GPT and ChatGPT's search engine and start adapting everything we've learned so far to the new horizon. What would you recommend to
what would I recommend? Well, I think the first thing to understand is that AI is not something you can necessarily actively... You're not always going to be actively adopting it. It's going to be you're going to be passively adopting it by using all the systems that you're still using. So, for example, if you're doing Google Ads, so much of the targeting, the bid management, even the copy and the creative is now handled by AI and so I've adopted AI without even changing anything particularly, because it's just and similarly the systems. There we go. Exactly. The suggestions that we have for incorrectly typed sentences, and so AI is being baked into all the things that we're currently using, and that I would say is kind of specialist AI. They're very specific systems for specific jobs. I think, and that's nothing new. Also, none of this is wildly new, but that is also nothing new. That's just an evolution of the systems that we have in place already. The big thing that made the waves was ChatGPT and general AI. So the idea of general AI being something that is trained on vast data sets to do very general things, to act as a human would act, not using what I suppose is often wrapped up machine learning, but wrapped up in AI, I guess, as this. And so the use of general AI is that really is the new thing. However, I have two thoughts on this. I think for the evaluation of information, for the summarization, the evaluation, for the starting point, for frameworks, for searching in particular, I use it extensively. I think it's a wonderful tool, and as my team do as well. To structure information, I think it's amazing at things that have to be. Their main goal is not to be wrong. Okay, so I know ChatGPT can be wrong in a lot of instances, but the goal is not to necessarily wow someone or throw a curveball or be creative or create a brand or do something that is going to get someone's attention, I think that it's amazing, right? And I use it in a lot of the ways. Now, if there's anything that is going to be showcasing a brand, the objective of AI is to give the statistically most likely response to a prompt, okay? And so you can kind of paraphrase that into, it's going to be bang average, literally. Whatever it comes out with is going to be bang average because it's designed to be bang average. So when it comes up with a marketing plan, it's not going to be wrong, but it's also going to be, okay. And I find my response to most AI content is like, yeah, all right, cool.
Yeah, it's bang average.
And yeah, it's cool. It's not wrong. I can't mark it down, but I also can't mark it. It's not gonna.
Not inspiring enough, really.
It's not inspiring. So for things like, so I think we're going to see this sort of growing chasm between human brilliance and AI efficiency and accuracy. I think AI will continue to become more and more accurate as it's trained on more up-to-date information and gets better and better. That's not going away. But it's not Einstein. It's a misquoted Einstein thing. So I'm caveating it. Humans are dumb, dumb, inaccurate, and brilliant, and computers are fast, accurate, and dumb. Did I probably said that wrong? No. Anyway, whatever. I think you get the gist. But human brilliance is not going anywhere.
No.
And because if you average a human into the most average thing possible, that is what AI is effectively becoming. And that doesn't put its head above the parapet. It isn't brilliant. It's not something that someone can follow or someone can be inspired by. And so I do have every confidence that human brilliance will be here for a very long time.
Oh, that's really good. And that's a really nice analogy of kind of explaining the difference between the two. And I think, there is a lot of press around, will AI replace my job? Will it do this? Will it do that? And I think, as you say, they're using it to maybe make certain refinements, whether that's processing a lot of data into a structure or in the most kind of basic sense, sometimes if we just got a bit of writer's block and we need to start a blog and we just kind of throw in a few, give me some ideas for this or give me a few titles and then we can kind of, oh great, okay, I've got a starting point. Let's kind of go from here.
Add a bit of brilliance.
So it is useful, I think, as you say, in the right way. And I think you're right, absolutely. I think tools, our everyday tools now are being having that AI baked in, so it's just becoming kind of quite normalized, as it were. But I think I hold the same faith of human brilliance and that will still continue to kind of shine through everything, and particularly in such a people-centric industry such as hospitality as well.
I've tried so many. Like I've got the AI thing on my Gmail. I tried one which helped me craft LinkedIn posts. I have tried so many and I've switched all of them. I've backed out of all of them because when I write or if I ever write any content, I write so conversationally. It's just, spit haphazard, probably it's just a thought stream effectively, which rightly or wrongly. And then it was for a journal and I thought I'd need to make this a bit more academically rigorous. Otherwise it's just the rantings of some bloke. And so I put it through ChatGPT and it was fine. I said, can you make it a bit more accurate? Find some references. It was actually on this, the economic, the industry life cycle as I was writing about this hotel tech sort of actually hitting the crest and falling off from an innovation perspective. And it just sucked the life out of everything. Yes, it was more accurate.
All your brilliance.
But, it's not even that. It was just the soul of...
Yeah.
I don't know. It wasn't me writing anymore, and that's what I don't like.
It doesn't become or feel authentic anymore.
No.
Yeah, definitely.
And so if you see it as a tool, it will be a tool. If you see it as a threat, it will be a threat. And I think if we can use it, if we always look at AI through the lens of how is it going to enable human brilliance, then you can't go too far wrong. But what it is creating, regrettably, is for those perhaps have had careers that they've never had to do some stuff themselves. You have a lot of people putting forward content, creative ideas that are purely AI driven, but there's very little filter, and people might be putting forward things that maybe don't understand the concept of what they're doing. And so I think it's a bit of a slippery slope for particularly junior team members that maybe haven't had to do everything themselves at one point. Because if you know how to do it yourself, you've got a pretty good filter of what is right or wrong.
Yeah.
If you've never had to do it yourself and you have entirely driven by that, then it's a very different kettle of fish.
Yeah. And
so the junior marketing exec role type thing, where you've never really had to produce good content before, that's where it's most worrying, I think.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And I guess from someone receiving the information, if they also accept that level of standard, then and feel that that's sufficient. Like if for some roles and some jobs, bang average is with no mistakes might be just about right. And
actually, if you see your room as a commodity, which is not a bad thing necessarily, if you're in that sort of mid market, cool, I'm just putting heads on pillows, then I think there is a lot of potential for it. But if for building a brand and building a genuine connection with people, I know.
Yes, definitely not going to work there. Can you think of any examples even outside of hospitality where you've gone, ooh, that looks a bit AI, or that looks a bit but I like it. It's kind of quite well done. Is there anything? Or the flip side, anything that you absolutely hated?
Well, I can just sniff AI content from a mile away now. And
semicolons, isn't it?
So many semicolons. Yeah, I'll see it on LinkedIn. You go AI, not AI. Gonna read that, and it's not because what the AI has done is wrong. It really isn't. It's because I'm just exposed to a lot of it. I can kind of sniff it out really. And so, as I said, there's going to be this gulf of AI, quite average stuff, and brilliant. And I think the brilliant is going to rise to the surface. I think it will continue to do so. And I think, okay, here's a slightly curveball tech idea. So NFTs, is everyone familiar with NFTs? Yeah. Okay. How about using NFTs to actually validate human creation? Right. So.
Oh wow.
So all right, this is actually almost an authorized stamp of seal of approval, immutable seal of approval that a human has actually put this together.
Well, NFTs have gone so well so far.
Well, no, but the concept of it, i.e., authenticity of a piece. Yeah. Because actually, people are buying. For example, people can impersonate art very well, but actually, people would pay because an actual artist has done it. I do think that they would buy into the human element of it. It's not just about the art is never just about what is created. It's about how and why and all those reasons. And if NFTs are the only way of distinguishing between an AI produced thing and a human one, then hey, why not?
There you go.
This is another example of just an amazing technology that has been created without actually a purpose until something like this comes along. And actually, it could work quite well doing this.
Probably.
Oh, we'll get AI working on some sort of clickbait title for it, won't we? NFT solved. Yeah. Well, lovely. Thank you so much, Harry, for your advice that maybe hospitality businesses or investors or owners or operators might be able to work on, whether they're small or big or whatever they're thinking about their technology stacks, and if they're thinking of hiring themselves a chief technology officer. It's lots of things for them to consider and work on. But it's been lovely to chat.
It has indeed.
Harry, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been really good to chat.
Thank you for listening to The Halo Effect, Hospitality Stories with Ashley and Michael Donald.
Hope that this has helped fellow hospitality people and entrepreneurs who may be on a similar journey.
If you would like to suggest any topics for future episodes, ask us a question, or would like to join us on a future episode of the podcast, then please get in touch. We've linked up our contact details in the show notes.
Don't forget to like and subscribe or follow The Halo Effect on whatever platform you listen to your podcasts. We look forward to welcoming you back to the next episode of The Halo Effect, Hospitality Stories with Ashley and Michael Donald.